When we think of the world's wealthiest countries, countries like the US, Britain, and Japan usually come to our minds. However, when we take a look at the GDP per capita, it is Luxembourg that is in the top 3. Luxembourg is a small country that is located between Belgium, Germany, and France. It is home to less than 650,000 people, which is less than most major cities. The short answer to Luxembourg's wealth would be the fact that the country is known for being both a banking powerhouse and a tax haven. But in reality, it is much more complicated than this and doesn't explain the whole story. The world's wealthiest countries were not always wealthy and were once some of the poorest countries and had to overcome major economic obstacles to reach the level they are at today. The Principality's perfect diverse economy is growing at a rate of 4% a year. However, let's take a look at how it began. During the 19th century, a majority of the population were involved in agriculture and things were generally tough for people. So much so that around 1/3 of the people actually left the country to seek better life elsewhere, and most of them actually moved to the States. However, what sparked the tremendous advancement of the economy was actually the discovery of a natural resource, namely iron ore. And since iron is necessary for the creation of steel, this was a big deal. Factories and production plants were introduced around the country, and by the end of this century, Luxembourg became one of the biggest producers of steel in Europe. And because of its great location between France, Germany, and Belgium, these countries didn't have a problem sending rail lines into Luxembourg in order to take advantage of some of its steel. When combined with the fact that it enjoyed low tariffs as part of its membership in the massive German customs union known as Zollverein, it wasn't long before the country developed a thriving steel industry that gave rise to companies such as Arbed and ArcelorMittal, which to this day are some of the most important steel producers in the world. This naturally led to more jobs and thus the growth of the economy. Fast forward to the 20th century, Luxembourg had developed banking and advanced manufacturing industries, putting the economy in good shape. Luxembourg has been able to build up a very rich financial centre due to the use of a strong legal framework, social and political stability in the Principality, and long-standing economic openness to the outside world. It is the second largest investment fund centre in the world after the United States and the premier private banking centre in the Eurozone. As it stands, it has attracted many wealthy clients around the world. However, it is not only because Luxembourg banks offer a global wealth structuring service which encompasses all the clients' assets. The main reason is that Luxembourg's laws lay down very strict rules regarding customer privacy. Only in Luxembourg, there is almost 1 trillion euros under banking secrecy. To highlight this fact, King Jong-il keeps around $4 billion in European banks, which includes banks in Luxembourg. This professional secrecy is rooted in the constitutional law of Luxembourg, which is very protective of personal freedom in its regulation of the relationship between the state and its individuals. However, it is important to note that Luxembourg sort of cheated their way to the top of the list. In order to determine their lists, the IMF and the World Bank use GDP derived from purchasing power parity. Simply, they make a list of common goods and see how much of that country's currency is needed to purchase these goods. After this, they then relate to the value of the currency back to national output so that GDP can be created. Whilst this is a long and complicated process, it sure does make Luxembourg seem a lot wealthier than it really is. One surprising thing is, it turns out that nearly 50% of workers actually commute to Luxembourg from neighbouring countries like Germany and France or Belgium and then commute home after work. Therefore, they add value for Luxembourg without actually living there, and as a direct consequence, inflate the GDP per capita, making it seem a lot larger than it actually is. So, does that mean Luxembourg is a fraud and doesn't deserve its rank on the list? No, not at all. You see, Luxembourg is an amazing place to live in. After all, not only does it have massive GDP per capita of $131,300, but its capital, Luxembourg City, is often considered to be one of the world's top cities in terms of quality of life, not only because of their wealth and disposable income, but also due to other things such as free public transport for all citizens amongst other benefits. Another factor contributing to Luxembourg's economic success is its attractiveness to foreign businesses. The Luxembourg holding law allows large holding companies, which are companies that have multiple smaller brands underneath them, to only pay about 1% in taxes, as it exempted those companies from corporate income tax, municipal tax, net wealth tax, and goods services tax. While this was only used a little around the time of its introduction in 1929, as American companies began to go global in the 50s to the 70s, they began looking for the best places to introduce, and because of the great rates, Luxembourg was the obvious choice. As a result, major international brands such as Amazon and Ferrero now call Luxembourg their home. Although Luxembourg experienced some serious backlash due to its banking regulations during the 2008 financial crisis, it has remained as a massive financial hub. Now, the Principality is preparing itself for the future. Luxembourg is preparing itself to fully take advantage of the space industry. More specifically, the country has launched a number of space-based initiatives surrounding regulation, tax, research and development regimes, with the idea being to create an accommodating space in Luxembourg for space companies. And while only about 800 people across 50 companies and research labs work in the Luxembourg space industry as of now, it already takes up a massive 2% of GDP, which is absolutely enormous. If we take Luxembourg's success so far and see it as an indication of the future, we shouldn't be too surprised when it becomes the go-to place for space startups. What do you think about Luxembourg's future? Have we missed anything out? Let us know in the comments down below and we will try our best to respond to all your comments. Please don't forget to like, subscribe and share this video to support the channel. Until next time, bye bye.